Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Raymond looking. Jimmy's got it on Batum. On the 5. Butler for the lead. It's an air ball. Loose and batted away, and the Clippers win. The Clippers hold on, and the missed goaltend becomes a very big play in the game.
Yeah, this is not going to be the last you hear about that missed goaltend and everything that ensued surrounding it. The Warriors not getting the points there, the Steve Kerr technical fouls, the Warriors fouling on the subsequent play, and, of course, the officials taking away a bucket from Stephen Curry, not allowing a continuation, all in a point in the game where the Warriors looked for the first of a couple of times tonight like they were going to fight back and steal this one, basically with one good quarter. That at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and then wouldn't you know, the Warriors find themselves down 13, and they would fight in the closing minutes with Stephen Curry getting on a heater, hitting a couple of big threes. But a game really, as we welcome you in here, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader, that it always seemed to feel like the Warriors in their heyday would win. Bad 3 quarters, but once they would get it rolling and Steph would start to cook in the fourth, they'd make some plays defensively, and they'd steal games like this routinely, and it just feels like the Warriors have not been able to win a game like this really at all in the last 4 years, where they just don't shoot it well, but fight and scrap and claw and just win with one big run. They've teased, I think, Warrior fans quite a bit with some almosts in a lot of games like this, but just very few games they've actually stolen like this over the course of the last couple of years. So the Warriors lose. Final score from down in Inglewood, 103-102 in favor of the Clippers. We do welcome in. It's John Dickinson here on Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. We've got Kyle Haar in the Daly City studios as we continue to roll here on to January of 2026. And frustrating defeat for the Golden State Warriors in this game. Just bottom line, when you take the officiating, and man, what a joke. What an absolute joke. And those of you who watch this show on YouTube, and we appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch, those listening on the Sports Leader, those watching, listening tomorrow via the podcast, whatever it is, those of you who followed me on this show and others throughout the years know that I'm not a big complain about the officials guy, but that's about as brutal as it gets with the stretch that led to Steve Kerr's ejection and basically the 3 calls, the late whistle non-shooting foul on that Steph Curry floater where he didn't get the continuation, the non-goaltend, which turned into a John Collins block that clearly was blocked after the ball had hit the backboard, and then a Steph Curry shooting foul. He chases down the refs, gets thrown out of the game at that point. And the Warriors, of course, wind up losing the game by 1 point when it was a 4-point game at that point that basically got pushed up to 10 in that moment early in the fourth quarter when the Warriors were among the beginning stages of their first of what were 2 pretty strong fourth quarter rallies to try and win this game. And so frustrating night, officiating aside. You had Guy Santos, who hadn't played all night, helping to ignite a comeback. You had Steph, who couldn't hit a shot all night, trying to ignite a comeback with some really frenetic defense down the stretch by the Warriors, trying to take the ball out of Kawhi Leonard's hands. The Clippers were able to score a couple of key buckets to keep the Warriors at bay. But as much as for the last couple of years, it's felt like Golden State doesn't win this game, it kind of felt at 2 different points in the fourth quarter like they were going to, but alas, they do not, and they wind up losing this one by 1 point. I kind of put out there in the grand scheme of things, this is a game the Warriors, and this was right at the top of the fourth quarter. This is a game the Warriors may come back and win. They may lose. But the big overarching takeaway, win or lose, and it would have been a hell of a feel-good victory for the Warriors to keep the momentum going, having won 6 of the last 8, and you subtract the one game they punted against Oklahoma City, and to not play well for as long offensively as the Warriors did not play well in this game and be able to find a way to get the job done late, it really would have furthered the momentum in 7 of 9 and starting to separate from 500, and then all the home games that are going to be coming up beginning on Wednesday night, with the Warriors hosting Milwaukee, basically 2 straight weeks at home and 8 consecutive home games, longest homestand of the season for Golden State coming up. It felt like stealing one could really get this team turned on what could prove to be a season-changing type of a run. But the reality is, had the Warriors won this game tonight, as great as it would have been, and we'll get into all the reasons why they didn't, the big thing tonight is the Warriors just could not hit shots. And early in the game, they didn't take advantage of a bunch of forced turnovers. They did take advantage of those turnovers as the game went on, but they just could not hit shots all night. And it's another one of these games that's just an indicator that they have to go out and look to add to this roster, even a moderate add. Again, I know there's frustration and there's been a lot of discussion of late as to what level of improvement the Warriors have to have in an attempt to, can they contend? How close to that can they get to? If they can't get close enough, what's the point in making these trades and moves? This team is, and I think has proven here, while I firmly believe they're not good enough to be in the Steve Kerr, give yourself a chance category, as they currently are constituted, they are proving that they're close enough to where even a moderate add or two to this roster, I do think can get them to a point where they have a fighting chance to get into the top 6 in the Western Conference. And I think there's a value in that, just in terms of making the last 3 months of the season interesting and watchable. But I think if they're unable to do it, and they will in the next month, we are a month away from the trade deadline, but I think, there is a value in trying to continue to make this team for this season as good as you possibly can with some moderate upgrades, because they do continue to fight and they do continue to show that they're close enough, I think, to where if you just could add a little more shooting among players that could be consistent closing group lineup type players, starting caliber 4 through 6, 4 through 7 on the roster type guys like we talk about all the time, that this team might have the ability to run off a pretty good hot streak and a pretty good record in the second half of the season. But they've got to be willing to make those moves in an attempt to make it happen. So just not enough shot making tonight. Too many nights this season where Steph didn't shoot it well, but did end up with 27. Jimmy, 7 of 16, the air ball on the turnaround jumper there at the end is with Stephen Curry fouled out. They go to Jimmy Butler to try to get the game winner. No putback attempt there in the closing seconds. Not sure there would have been time had there been able to be an offensive rebound gathered in that spot. But you just look up tonight and it's Steph 27, Jimmy 24, and it's just nothing from anybody else. If they had one more just guy who could hit a shot consistently, third scorer on this team that could do it somewhat smoothly, I just think it would continue to go a long way. And so as we kind of separate from the minutia of tonight, there's a lot of minutia tonight to get into. It's just, that's the one thing that this team, win or lose, they could have won this game. And frankly, I think if Steph doesn't foul out, they probably do win this game. And that is just another example of the Warriors being just good enough to lose in a lot of these close games for a while now, not only this season, but I feel like even over the course of the last 3 or 4 seasons, as I've mentioned a couple of times here to start the show. So 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627, the number to join the conversation here as we get things rolling on Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader on this Monday night. We appreciate everybody again watching on YouTube and Twitch. A lot to get caught up on as to just the Warriors' struggles in this one. But tonight for the fans, want to hear from you at 415-808-5627. We'll get to the YouTube chat coming up in the 10 o'clock hours. We'll keep this thing rolling at least until 11 o'clock. But again, the big takeaways, the Warriors just couldn't hit shots. I thought early they didn't take advantage of turnovers. They were leaving shooters wide open early in the game, allowed the Clippers to get comfortable. I mean, you look at a night like tonight, Kobe Sanders ends up with an efficient 20. And Kobe Sanders was exactly what the Warriors needed from anybody not named Steph or Jimmy tonight. And if they get any kind of 9 of 16, 20-point effort from anybody else on the roster, it's a scenario where they win this game, and they may wind up winning this game going away. And I think the frustrating part of this game is you look at, on a night where the Warriors are looking for that third guy, Chris Dunn, 16 points on 5 of 7 shooting. You had John Collins, 7 of 12, 18 points. And you have Kobe Sanders, 20 points on 9 of 16. So the Clippers basically had 3 guys that could have very easily slid in to be the Warriors' number 3 option tonight. And if you get that kind of game from anybody, you get a Kobe Sanders, John Collins type game from Pods or Moody or Melton or anybody, you wind up winning this game, even if you have to steal it down the stretch in the fourth quarter. But the Warriors just so often cannot come up with enough players that can have those kinds of nights when the Warriors need them. So let's get to the phones. Let's get it rolling. Tipped off here with Adam tonight in San Jose, getting us started on Dubs OT on this Monday night. A lot to get into. What's on your mind tonight, Adam?
What's up, JD? So you said we're a shooter away from winning these games, but I believe we've lost every single game this season when the opposing team is missing their best player. Tonight, they were missing Harden and Jones Jr. So do you really think that adding like a Michael Porter Jr. is really going to help us compete in the long run against OKC, the Spurs, the Rockets? I don't think that.
Here's my thing, though, and I'm gonna let you finish because I jumped you there a little quick. Does it help them? Does it help them win a playoff series against OKC? Probably not. Does it help them win tonight? Yes. Does it help them win, a bunch of games here? Does it help them win in Phoenix a couple weeks ago and they lose in Phoenix? Yes. Does it help them win in Philadelphia when they get beat in Philadelphia by a single point? Yes, I think it does. And there's a bunch of other games I can point to. And it's not that the Warriors are going to win all those games that they lost close, but I do think that, and I'll use your example of Michael Porter Jr. I do think if the Warriors had a Michael Porter Jr., they would probably be 5 games better than they are right now at 19 and 18. And if they're 4 or 5 games better, hell, I'll even just say 4 games better from 19 and 18. Now you're talking about 23 and 14. And would that mean, Adam, that I believe that the Warriors are a title contender with OKC and San Antonio? No, I think they'd be short of that. But you know what 23 and 14 would, where that would put them? It would put them right there. It would put them right there on the brink of 6-5-4 in the Western Conference, at a game and a half out of 3 in Denver. And so you know what that level means? That level means giving yourself a chance, which is the quote that's been so widely dissected among what Steve Kerr's had to say here over the last couple of weeks. And I believe, and you can disagree with me, Adam, that's fine. Others can disagree with me. I believe that there's a value in trying to be that level of team, even if ultimately you can't win a title or beat an OKC or a San Antonio in a 7-game playoff series. But that's just me.
But the whole point is to get Steph this 5th championship. And why does it matter if we win regular season games, but then we're a first-round exit when it comes to the playoffs or a second-round exit? But anyways, Podziemski has never been known for his defense. He's never played defense, but it is very obvious that he's afraid to take a shot. That guy would not shoot the ball. it was very apparent that tonight that he seemed like he was scared to shoot. And one issue that's been lingering since the 2022 season, since the year we won the championship, is our inability to recover to close out at the 3-point line. So it's been an issue the last 3 seasons since we've won that championship, where they're able to swing the rock and get it to a wide open guy for a 3-point shot, and we're not able to recover in time to try to contest that.
Yeah, look, in the 3-point defense statistically, Adam, thanks for the call, has been good this year. But you're right. I think there's too many open looks that they give up. I think sometimes it's game plan to let certain guys beat them, and I think too frequently they get beat when they do that. There's too much overhelping at times, poor rotations, as you mentioned. That's all part of the equation there. But it has been too much of a problem since they last won in 2022. I'll go back to what you said about, well, what's the point of winning these regular season games if you can't ultimately win a playoff series or beat the Thunder, beat the Spurs? Do you want to continue to be this? Like, this team's got no shot. Like this team at 19-18, and they might play a little better between now and the end of the year, but look at how hard they're having to work to win these games. Look at how hard they're having to work to go 6-3 in the last 9, and you've got some people ready to have a parade for the fact that they're 6-3 in the last 9. Like that's this team's got higher standards than that. Again, my point though is, because you don't think you can win a title, you'd rather have this. See, that's the part that just doesn't compute for me. Like, I don't want this. This isn't fun. Doing the thing where they win a couple and it's the same old thing where they don't have enough offense, they don't have enough shooting, they just frankly don't have enough good rotation players on a night in, night out basis that can make a shot, make the right play, and defend. And that's the thing. Like, we'd have a completely different opinion about this team if they were 23-14. We would. And again, they'd still, at that point, technically be 7th in the Western Conference. But you know what? They'd be a game out of 4th at that point. And they'd be in the mix with Minnesota and the Lakers and the Rockets. And again, could they win a title? Well, there's no guarantees in life. But you know what? They'd have a hell of a lot better chance of getting through a series, maybe 2, with a team that looks to add to this roster than they would now. That's my point on it. And again, I don't know anybody that would want to, just because you don't think you can win, because you're not tearing it down to the studs. Like, that's the other thing. You're not tearing it down to the studs. So you want to just stay stuck in the middle and keep watching Moses Moody shoot 30% for a month in the starting lineup. You want to keep watching, your example, Brandon Pajemski, be afraid to shoot and caught in between with regularity. No, I would look to go get Michael Porter Jr. or Herb Jones or Trey Murphy or whoever the hell you can between now and February 5th and give yourself a shot to get into that mix with some of these other teams, even if ultimately you can't win an NBA title. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader as the Warriors lose this one 103-102 to the Clippers. And man, just another tough, close loss for the Warriors on a night where it looked like maybe they were going to have a shot to steal it, but just so much bad offense for the Warriors. And I don't even think it's bad execution in terms of like the plays they're running or the shots they're getting. It's just too often there are too many nights where the guys that they're counting on to play the bulk of their minutes cannot hit open looks. And, tonight you look around and it's Moody, 1 for 5, 0 for 3 from 3. It's Pajemski, 2 for 5, not his worst night. D'Anthony Melton, 2 for 7, can't hit a 3. Al Horford stunk tonight. Al Horford was probably the worst player on the floor tonight. 1 for 8, 1 for 5, -14. Been far too many of those games for Al Horford, who has not delivered any semblance of what the Warriors brought him in to do. And you can say JD's going to be 40 in June. How could you expect him to bring more to the table than he has? Fair at this point. but Al Horford stunk. Like, Al Horford makes a couple threes tonight, Warriors maybe steal the game. So it's Draymond 0 for 6 from 3. Now, he played, I thought, a damn good floor game again, but the Warriors are not at a point, and 12 assists, a couple of steals, plus 15. Like, Draymond was the least of the problems overall, but the Warriors are not at a point where they can just carry Draymond playing 35 minutes on a night where nobody is scoring, and he's going 0 for 6 from 3. Like, they're just not good enough in other areas, and they have to have more shooting and offensive prowess at other parts of the floor if he's going to be able to be out there to do the other things that he does well. And so it's just, they've just got too many offensive players that are too inconsistent and or inept offensively. And it hurts, a couple of the players, and Draymond's the one that I think it hurts a ton. But because he still does do things that help teams win, but his inability to score or hit open shots himself makes him a liability at times, especially on the nights where others can't offset it for this Warriors team. Do have to give a positive nod to Guy Santos tonight, and in the everything of Kerr getting ejected and Steph Curry fouling out and all of that. Guy Santos was a big-time spark for the Warriors in the fourth quarter, although, and I think he rested for about 30 seconds of the 12 minutes in the fourth quarter as he played all of his minutes in that fourth quarter. Guy Santos winds up being a plus 13, and it kind of leaves you wondering, well, why was Guy Santos not out there maybe a little bit earlier in the game with the Warriors struggling so much with the size and the length of the Clippers, and somebody that can just infuse energy, hustle, get a couple rebounds, keep the ball moving. I mean, he immediately came in, got a bucket, hit a three, got a rebound on the offensive glass. Like, he immediately is one of these guys where you don't know if you're going to get it, but going to him often leads to positive results. And so it's a night where you give Guy Santos the credit for coming in and making something happen. But unfortunately, I think it's also one of these nights where you look up and you look back in hindsight and say, well, why was Guy Santos not on the court until the old Phil Jackson sub, where, Phil used to do this all the time, where he would not play somebody for the entire night, and then he'd all of a sudden be out there as a spark plug to begin the fourth quarter to see if he could help a team, crawl back into a game. And that's exactly what Guy Santos provided for the Dubs tonight. So you had Steph doing his thing and Jimmy doing his thing, getting to the free throw line. And, GP picked up some points tonight that wound up being useful in times where the Warriors weren't getting offense from anybody. He kind of fell into 14 points tonight, did Gary Payton II, but nobody did it in terms of just hitting open looks, as the Warriors wind up 38% from the night overall and 10 for 41 from 3-point range as they wind up losing this one 103-102. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. As you listen here to KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the sports leader, a Cumulus Media station. Kyle, how are we doing on time, my man? I realize we just hit the top of the 10 hour. We want to jump.
We are good. We are definitely good to keep rolling on. This is kind of like one of the few shows where there aren't that many commercials to play.
Okay, very good. Well, we like that. We'll use that to our advantage when we get it. I don't want to understate, by the way, before we get to Kyle's clicks. I don't want to understate how bad the officiating was tonight. I mean, and how bad, honestly, the officiating is on a lot of nights in the NBA, and they do tend to ruin a lot of good games with some of the inconsistencies and interpretations of different situations. Tonight was about as bad as it could get in what led up to Steve Kerr's fourth quarter ejection with the goaltend. And the goaltend is going to be the one. And I see that Terry Stotts did the post-game media session tonight. So we'll hear from
Sounds of
Stotts.
Stotts.
Yeah, sounds of Stotts coming up here later on in the 10 o'clock hour. But yeah, the goaltend in a game where, of course, the Warriors wind up losing by a point. I mean, it's easy to say, well, how did you miss that? Calls get missed. But the inability to correct something so simple, it drives me absolutely batty. Kyle, you know this because there are games that have been decided frequently where seemingly the game's over in the last 4 minutes. They're reviewing a million different things and coaches are challenging. It's like the game's over. Like, what are we doing? They're going to the monitor, all these different things. Like, how can you not have a very simple on a play like that? And it's not in the rule book, which is why they don't have it. And their intent is to not slow the game down. But honestly, they need, like the NFL has, the replay assist on a play like that. It shouldn't have to be that you call it a goaltend to be able to review it. That being said, anything close, an official should call a goaltend, and then they review it. And they'll find, it wasn't. Take the 2 points off the board, whatever. But to have a play like that wind up being unreviewable, unchallengeable is pretty bad. Like that to me, the system, the process, that's even worse than missing the call. And look, Warrior fans may disagree with me, and that's fine. Like, I don't think this is some anti-Warrior conspiracy or anything like that. So let's not get it twisted. I know some are probably going to come on and rant and rave and scream and holler and all that. That's not what I'm going to do here. But the reality is it's just bad officiating. It's bad officiating. And if you watch a ton of games and are a junkie like I am, you see it in different instances in different games all across the league. What are these guys doing? What is that call? Why is this interpreted this way? Why is, why is the team X getting a bunch of opportunities on a night where team Y maybe isn't? And again, it's widespread. It's widespread. And again, it was momentum changing because the Warriors were on the come there at the beginning of that fourth quarter. And, they've got to hold their mud. They've got to hang in there. But it was 6 points basically that the Clippers ended up getting after the Warriors had cut it down to a 4-point game. They hit a 3 to make it a 7-point game. And then there were another 3 points that wound up coming from the 2 Kerr technicals and then the foul that came after that. And all of a sudden, a 4-point game was a 10-point game at that point where, you get the call right, you take the tech free throw away, and you give the Warriors the bucket at that point. And, it's probably a 5-point game with the Clippers maybe going to the free throw line as opposed to a 10-point game. And then you look up later and the Warriors wind up losing the game by a single point, which I think makes it all the more frustrating when you look at the way the game played out. But all in all, not enough offense for the Dubs in this one to overcome any of it. All right, let's get to some Kyle's clicks here on Dubs OT. Andis Brown, that's kind of the point of replay, to fix the obvious misses like that goaltending, not to fix the judgmental calls. I mean, that just would have been so easy, simple, quick. It's the people are watching at home or people are watching in a bar, right? 2 guys or gals are watching in a bar and you watch the replay and you go, oh man, bad call. Fix it. Like it takes like 5 seconds. Like everybody can see it. Everybody knew it was a bad call. Doesn't matter. It's not, Homer broadcasting or whatever the heck you want to call it. It's just, all right, bad call. Put the 2 on the board. If that happens, then it doesn't ultimately lead to an ejection. And maybe not. Maybe the outcome isn't affected. But tonight is one of those games where the outcome could very well have been affected if they had just gotten that one call right due to the ramifications of what happened after that. So yeah, Andis, I'm with you. It's the point of replay. Fix the obvious misses, get that call right, and move forward with the rest of the night and try to have cooler heads prevail. All right, let's keep it moving here in the YouTube chat. From Andis, we go to JMU22. JD, bad goaltending errors like those should be reviewed automatically with points awarded so as not to affect the game's end. And you can do it. You don't even have to stop the game to do it. With that much time left on the call, you don't need to stop the game. You just do it during the next time out and put the 2 points on the board, adjust the scoreboard. All right, 5 minutes to go, 7 minutes to go, whatever it is. They do it with 3-point shots. They do it with shot clock violations. They do it with a lot of different situations like that. You look at it, you don't stop the game. You make an announcement to the crowd. You make an announcement on the telecast or on the radio broadcast, and you move on. Pretty simple. Pretty simple, but also pretty easy to see, even live, pretty easy to see. And obviously I'm watching from the home studio tonight, not down in Inglewood. But those that were on hand in Inglewood, and again, whether you were watching Peacock or NBC Sports Bay Area, whatever feed you were watching, if you were listening to Snoop Dogg, whatever it was, whoever you were choosing to watch, it was pretty clear that was a goaltend. Ian J, can't blame the refs for all the team's failures, but the amount of times they have been screwed is ridiculous. I mean, look, there's plenty of blame to go around for the Warriors in this game tonight. The lack of shooting right at the top of the list for Golden State. But yeah, it's definitely frustrating. And the way that it ultimately plays out with some of the calls that are noted by others on a regular basis that Steph doesn't get, that other star players tend to get, there's definitely, it's not nothing. It's not nothing. Like I don't like going down that road a lot, but it's not nothing. Does it get overblown at times by Warrior fans? Sure. But it's not nothing when you look at it in comparison to other star players throughout the course of the league. I mean, you'd be ridiculous. EB here, Butler had a clean look, no excuses. $60 million for who? For what? I mean, he missed the shot. Again, I thought, good play, good shot, good, he missed the shot. I look at Jimmy Butler's night, 24 points. He took 16 shots. He got to the line 11 times. I think that's what you signed up for Jimmy Butler at this point. Now, if this is a night where he has 16 points and he shoots it 8 times, then I got a problem with that. But not everybody's going to hit the shot at the end of the game. I think the Warriors did the best they could. They gave themselves a shot with the best player that they had on the floor, with Steph having fouled out. But he missed the shot, and they gave themselves a chance to get an offensive rebound putback also, but it wasn't able to be corralled. And I don't think there was going to be time left for a putback a la VJ Edgecombe against the Warriors back in early December in Philadelphia. But yeah, sometimes your star players miss, but I didn't have a problem with the look. It was an ugly shot, obviously, the air ball. And how appropriate is that on a night where the Warriors shot so poorly to have the game end basically with a terrible looking shot that was a very bad miss on a 15-footer there from the baseline. Let's JMU 22 game was close because the Warriors only had 7 turnovers and Dre only had 1 with 12 assists. With that said, still trade Dre. Yeah, I don't know. And Dre's pretty banged up, and I think you got to give him credit for fighting through not only the ankle tweak, but running into the bench there and hurting the rib. And you're right. I mean, the Warriors were in the game because they forced 20 turnovers and ended up with 27 points off those turnovers. They only had 7 points for the Clippers, plus 20 for the Warriors, points off turnovers. and just the fourth time this season that the Warriors lose a game where they lose the turnover battle. So that's unusual for Golden State. But again, if you're looking to trade Draymond, it becomes who are you looking to trade Draymond for? And I think that list of player is very, 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 very short. And, as a couple of people have pointed out in the chat, for as bad as the Warriors, or for as good as the Warriors were in the fourth quarter and rallying and fighting and giving themselves a chance, they lost this game in the third quarter where they only scored 13 points and had a 7-minute stretch where they went 3 for 24 for the quarter and 0 for 9 from deep. Basically 8 minutes without a field goal. And, Steph had a three free throws in that stretch. But 13 points basically in the quarter and 7 points in the final 8 minutes of the quarter is just, that's going to get you beat. That's that's bad enough to get you beat. Max Lopez bringing up the 3 for 24. At what point do you say no one shoot but Steph or Jimmy? And look, Steph and Jimmy didn't shoot it great tonight. Tonight was not a great Steph night. He got on a heater in the fourth. He hit a couple late. It looked like it was the classic, wow, if Steph can keep doing this for another couple of minutes, the Warriors might win this game. And then Steph winds up fouling out right when it looks as if the Warriors – and, man, is there anything more indicative of the Warriors' inability to win these close games than the Warriors getting down 94-81? They immediately go on a 9-0 run. Dunn hits a 3 to make it a 97-90 Clipper lead. Curry then hits a couple of free throws. Warriors are really doubling Kawhi. Collins ended up getting a bucket to make it a 7-point game again. Draymond with a couple of free throws knocks it down to 5. Clippers answer again. So there were 3 stretches there, 3 plays in a row where the Clippers ended up scoring. But then you get Curry with the back-to-back threes with a Warriors stop. It goes from 101-94 to 101-100. Warriors get the stop, can't get the rebound, and Steph fouls out of the game. And Chris Dunn hits the free throws that wind up being the difference in the game. It was 103-100. Warriors got the Draymond layup before they got another stop. And then Jimmy Butler ends up with the air ball there in the closing seconds, and the Warriors lose by 1. But anything more indicative of where the Warriors have been here and their inability to win these close games than Steph getting on that heater, they get the stop, can't get the rebound, and then Steph, legitimately, it was a foul, but he fouls Dunn, and it's his 6th foul of the game, and he winds up out of the game when it looked like it was going to be one of those nights where maybe he could have carried them to the finish line victoriously down in Inglewood. All right, 808 KMBR. Let's keep it rolling here, Kyle. We good to keep it going for a little bit more? All right, let's keep it rolling here. Warriors need another dude who can score at will. It's Steph or die. Don't disagree with that. It's always playmaker / shooter. I think it's shooter, but it can't just be a shooter it can't be a shooter of the Buddy Hield variety. Like, it can't be a shooter that's a bench shooter that can only shoot. It has to be a starting caliber NBA player that can shoot and preferably play some defense and or rebound. It's not just, they're not looking for Corey Kispert. They're not looking for Buddy Hield 3.0. They're looking for somebody that can be a consistent top 6 or 7 in the rotation type player that can consistently hit shots. And I think they need, it's the Michael Porter Juniors, it's the, Trey Murphy pipe dream. It's that type of a player that ultimately I think can help the Warriors. And I think it helps to spread, everything out. Dinkelberg, is it bad? I wanted him to sit Dre after the injuries. It feels like the offense is different with Dre out. Tim Kawakami of the SF Standard was making the point that we've gotten into a lot on this show. And I've been all over it, and I've said it. Draymond cannot play the 4 anymore. And he's starting at the 4 right now because they're faking it basically with Post and Moody and Steph and Jimmy, because he doesn't want to play the 5, I think, at the start of the game, and he doesn't want to play a lot of minutes at the 5. And it was funny, TK put out there during the game, and Jimmy Butler's the Warriors' best power forward. Well, yeah, I mean it's a duh, but it's not. I'm not saying that to Tim, but it's like we've been talking about that since Jimmy Butler came. Basically, it's why Kuminga couldn't get on the floor, because Jimmy Butler became the best power forward on the team, and Kuminga's best path to being able to play back when he was in the mix was playing the 4. So Jimmy's the best 4 on the team, yes. Draymond's also the best 5 on the team, and he's basically, it's gotten to the point where his individual struggles have almost directly correlated with playing the 4. And when he's playing the 5, he can make an impact. So it's almost just play him at the 5, but play him less, I think, is my solution. And I know he had the game where he got thrown out on Saturday while everybody was watching football down at Levi's. And they're one of a few instances where Draymond, a few recently where Draymond's been out of the game for whatever reason, and the Warriors have played better after Draymond has left the game. And so, I don't think that was the case tonight, but he's got to play as much center as possible to be effective. The spacing is just bad when he's at the 4. And Jimmy's at the 3, and he's not a great shooter, and Moody can't hit a shot, and Quentin Post is not hitting shots. It's funny, Quentin Post is doing other things, but he's actually not hitting shots, which is problematic. So this lineup that they've gone to consistently has just not still been able to have enough offensive flow, but it's been capable enough to where they've been able to set their rotation enough to where they've just kind of stuck with it, and it's appeased Draymond, I think, and they've won 6 out of 9 basically with it, or 6 out of 10 basically with it. So they've stuck with it. But Draymond in the biggest moments has got to be playing center, and the problem is, as Diggum points out, when he plays the 5, they can't rebound. You're not wrong. They have to collectively rebound when he plays the 5. That's where I think somebody like Michael Porter actually does help, because he is a good rebounder. And he's not a great defender, but he is a good rebounder. Again, Dre at the 5, Jimmy at the 4, Porter at the 3, whatever it is, the front line of Porter and Jimmy, basically, maybe with a Melton and a Steph, that's the kind of closing lineup that I think can have enough shooting, have enough rebounding, and allow for everybody to play their best and most natural positions. All right, let's keep it moving here. Change is needed, fully healthy team, and this is what they are. And I mean, it like I said, it's better the last 3 weeks than it had been, but I just don't think that this team is capable of getting on any kind of major run. I think they're capable of going 6-3, 6-4, and we'll see what happens, because there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on what this team can do here during this 8-game homestand. And that was another thing, had the game not jumped off in the way that it did, with the officiating and Kerr getting ejected and the wild finish with Steph fouling out, and the Warriors end up losing this game by 1. One of the questions to kind of throw on the board as we look toward Wednesday and this homestand, you got the Bucks, Kings, Hawks, Blazers, who've beaten the Warriors 3 times, Knicks, Hornets, Heat, and Raptors. And so, this is not some easy 8-game homestand coming up. Bucks, you can look at that and say, yeah, probably should win that game, but, Giannis has a big game, and, maybe you lose that game, or you have an off night. Maybe, like, you could lose that game. You could lose to the Hawks. We know they can lose to the Blazers. The Knicks are better than the Warriors. I mean, you'd look at it and say, yeah, Kings, Charlotte, those are the 2 you better freaking get. Although, guess what? They've already lost to the Kings, although that was one of the nights the Warriors punted back in early November. But And then Miami we've seen come in to chase and win, and Toronto is a team that we've seen in the last couple of years come in to chase and win with worse iterations of themselves than they currently are. So, what's acceptable on this homestand? I mean, I feel like it has to be a 6-2. But do you really believe this team's going to go 6-2 or better than 6-2 in the next 8? I think what we've seen here over the last 9-10 games where they've gone 6-3, 6-4, you'd say, could they kind of repeat that? Sure. But 6-2 to me at 19, 19 and 18, you go 6-2. Now you're 25-19. You're starting to separate. You're within striking distance, maybe a 6th in the Western Conference. You go 5-3, 4-4, or worse, and you're just a different version of the same with 8 more games off the schedule at this point. So I think there needs to be some pressure. I don't even think I see Ian. I don't even think 5-3 is good enough. Like, you just went 6-3 in the last 9, 6-4. You punted on one of them against OKC. Like, to me, you got to go 6-2. This is the stretch basically, and I'll even include going back to Friday night and the beginning of 2026. This is a stretch the Warriors have pointed to for 2 months. It feels like. Because they started whining about the schedule the second week of the season, and they kept whining about the schedule until the middle of December when they played 3 games in 10 days and lost all 3 of them. And then now they've played better the last couple of weeks since then, but that better is what, 6-4? I think if you count the Phoenix game, it's 6-4. If you count the first Phoenix game, if they lost, it's 6-4. If you count from that game, it's 6-3. So, yeah, playing better, but 6-3 is hardly some freaking hot streak. They're 1 over 500. So to me, you need to take the 1 and you need to go +4 between now and the end of this homestand, which is going to be basically 8 games in a 2-week span. But yeah, change is needed. There's no doubt. They need to add this. Nothing about the last 9 games changes anything to me in terms of the big picture. They need to add offense. They need to have offense for sure. All right, 808 KNBR. Let's take a timeout here. We'll come back. 415-808-5627. Still time for some phone calls. We'll continue with more Kyle's Clicks. We'll get to our Sounds of Dubs OT between now, and we'll probably keep it going a little bit after 11 o'clock to get our Sounds of Dubs OT in. And our fun with numbers tonight. Warriors lose another clutch game, 103-102. We're here. We're talking about it. It's Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Oh, look at Steve Kerr. He's all the way out here.
Uh-oh, Steve, don't get thrown out. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. Back him up. Back him up, GP. Back him up. Steve ready to fire on him.
He's already gone.
Steve banging Inglewood right now. Inglewood. Get him, Steve. You in Inglewood, Steve. The Arizona Wildcat that came out and look at him.
That Snoop Dogg on the Peacock telecast tonight down in Inglewood. Thought it was a Peacock exclusive, Kyle, but I guess you could get the local feed here on NBC Sports Bay Area as well. I think nationally you had to watch the game on Peacock. If you're out of the area, you had to watch the game on Peacock. In the Bay, you had the choice, and I was going between Peacock and Mute tonight. I'm not gonna lie. That's typically how I roll. If you give me another option, typically I take the other option, as those of you who know here on Dubs OT. And so, yeah, I was kind of going back and forth. Sometimes I'll put the audio on some other games if there's another game going on. But yeah, I was more locked in on Peacock tonight than I was. Almost at times I even had both going, but the sound for Peacock on and the Peacock stream was a little bit slower than the DirecTV the DirecTV television in the studio room here. And so I would almost, if I missed a play or wanted to see what exactly happened there, you kind of see the play and then I'd watch the play again with the audio on the Peacock stream. But yeah, Snoop was pretty good. It was hilarious. I mean, that was the highlight of the night, I think, from the Peacock telecast. And Snoop was there the entire second half. JC Mack, I agree. Snoop was hilarious. He was pretty good. Something different with the Warriors and the Clippers tonight. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 103-102. The final. Warriors lose to the Clippers. Another frustrating night. Another night where the Warriors are unable to further their momentum. It really felt like tonight, and there's been so many games like tonight, where if the Warriors could have just got the win, despite all of the ways that they didn't play well, if they could have just found a way to steal it, it might have been the thing that leads them to, all right, they win that one, and then all of a sudden they win 3 more in a row, and now they've got a little bit of action. But then you lose that game, and you look up, and it's like, oh, yeah, they're 19-18. They're still a play-in team, and they're expecting things to get better here with the homestand that they have coming up. That'll begin on Wednesday night against Milwaukee. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line here before we get back into the YouTube chat. 831, Draymond is having a rough season, but I still don't want to see him traded. Maybe another quality scorer can help bring his play back up a few notches. I think that's the other part of making a move for somebody that has a little bit of offensive prowess, that can be a starting caliber and finishing caliber / top 6-7 in your rotation caliber player. It takes a little of the heat off Draymond. It takes heat off of Moody. Like, the guy that they bring in probably puts Moses Moody on the bench. Well, guess what? Moses Moody is probably more effective, more consistently, if he's coming off the bench as somebody that's being counted on to be a 7th or 8th man than somebody that's currently being counted on to be a starting player on a night in, night out basis with a team that has expectations to be a top 4 to 6 team in the Western Conference. Like, it takes pressure off of Brandon Pajemski. Like, if you could bring 2 more rotation players in, a starter and maybe another bench guy, and all of a sudden your top 8 is Steph, Melton, Jimmy, Draymond, one of the guys you bring in, Porter, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, whoever it is. And then it's Moody Pajemski, but it's Moody Pajemski as like the 7-8. in your rotation. Melton, part of that mix. He's probably your 6. And then you got a little something. 209, Golden State Lumber at Showroom Text Line. I don't want to see Kuminga, Pods, or Moody on this team after the trade deadline. Well, Kuminga's the one that I think is a lock. But the reality is you could throw Moody in now. You could throw Moody into a deal now. Without a doubt. And, salary filler to whatever. And I think it would help you get to a point where you could look to make a move. And I don't think it would hurt you. Will Richard tonight, not a lot of Will Richard tonight. He didn't play well early. And I was surprised we didn't see more of him. I was a little surprised we didn't see Guy Santos sooner than the start of the fourth quarter. Now, the small returns on Will Richard were not great. But again, Will Richard, it doesn't ever really seem like when he isn't playing well, he just kind of blends when he isn't playing well. I don't feel like he ever really is killing him when he's not playing well. But as we've discussed a lot, I think Melton coming back with Will Richard has really allowed for Moody specifically, and maybe even Moody and Pods, to be more expendable potentially in the right kind of a trade. 408. How many of the worst losses of the season will the Dubs have this year? I don't think tonight's even in the top 5. I don't know where you are on that one, Kyle. But I don't even think tonight.
For me, Raptors is up there.
Yeah,
Pacers is up there.
Yeah, we could run through. I don't even tonight doesn't even register for me in terms of worst losses. Would tonight be in the top? Would tonight even be in the top 10 worst losses of the season for the Dubs? I don't think it would. I'm going to look right now. I'm just going to give you how many losses I'd say are worse than this one for the Warriors this season. At Milwaukee, October 30, at Indy, November 1st. At Sacramento, even though nobody played, but the fact that you basically decided to punt at Sacramento is worse than tonight. Let's see. So that's what, is that 3 already or 4 already?
We got 3.
It's 3 already. We'll call it 3. You need to keep count because I'm gonna lose track here. I want to go through this relatively quickly. Let's see what else. I'd put at Philly, ahead of this one. At Philly's ahead of this one.
Even
at Portland when Steph hit it, 12 threes, and they still lost the game, had the 5-point lead with about 2 minutes to go. That's got to be there. At Phoenix is worse than tonight. At Toronto is probably the worst of the season. It's up there. And then I don't know. So that's what, at least 5, 6.
We got 7.
5 or 6.
We got 7.
7. All right. So yeah. All right. So it's top 10. Tonight's maybe a top 10 worst loss of the season, but in actually going through and doing the exercise, it's pretty gross. 408. 408, different 408. JD, this team is literally the definition of 500. They seem destined for the 10 seed at best. They're despicable, especially when other team stars don't even play. That's another, that's true. No Harden tonight. And, the Clippers have been playing better. They've won 7 of the last 8 now with the win tonight. And they were 6-21, I think, at the point in which they started. But yeah, chalk that one up. I didn't think tonight was a letdown issue. Again, you don't have James Harden. And for the most part, you give up 103 points. I don't think tonight was some brilliant defensive game for the Warriors, but I thought their intent was good. They were flying around. They were making the right, they were setting themselves up for good shots. I thought there were stretches of the game they played really good defensively. I don't think tonight was Harden wasn't playing. They thought they could just show up and win the game. I think they had the what Kerr uses, appropriate fear of their opponent. So I don't know. I didn't think tonight was that. But yeah, they are without a doubt the definition of 500 until they prove otherwise. 831 says they actually came back in this game. Their worst losses were when they coughed up the lead and then lost in the last minute. I totally agree. Totally agree. And then another chiming in from the South Bay, 408. You would think after getting a taste of what it's like to be considered a dynasty that Joe Lacob would be all in while he has the chance. I believe they call it the DeBartolo way here in the Bay. Yeah. I mean, when you still have Steph, and by the way, again, the game kind of jumped off, but did you read the Ian O'Connor piece? Ian O'Connor of Yahoo Sports writing a piece, and we can get into this before we go back to the YouTube chat, basically imploring the Warriors to make a bold move. And, you know, he was on that train last year as well. Again, going down that path of wasting another elite season, and hit the gist of it. And it was related to the Kerr comments from our buddy Tom on his stream and podcast, Tom Tolbert, where, you know, the Kerr comments and, you know, wanting to give themselves an opportunity and be foolish to think they're competing with Oklahoma City and San Antonio. That's been a huge discussion. But Ian O'Connor of Yahoo Sports basically writing, hey, the Warriors, Steph is still elite, and he is. And you got Jimmy last year, and that was nice. And they needed to go get Jimmy, but Jimmy is you know, helped them, but Jimmy didn't help put him over the top. So now you need to go look and make a move. Like, they went and got the number 2, essentially, was kind of my spin on it in Jimmy. Now they need to go get the number 3. Like, because Steph is still damn good, and you can't expect Jimmy to be somebody that's going to be this playoff level Jimmy. And his take was basically that it's not, quote, irresponsible, as Kerr said, to look to give up picks and to look to give up some of your young assets to try and bring that 3rd, 4th guy in next to Steph and next to Jimmy, and hell, even next to Draymond, although he didn't rule out the potential for the Warriors to look to move Draymond Green in the right deal. But I'll read this paragraph for me again. Kevin O'Connor. I said Ian O'Connor. Kevin O'Connor. Even Ian O'Connor covers the Knicks, I believe. Kevin O'Connor. Kerr's irresponsible label is a smokescreen, because even after acquiring Butler, the Warriors still have the full rights to their own firsts in every year except for 2030. That year, they can trade the rights to their pick only if it lands in the top 20. That means Golden State can trade up to 3 unprotected firsts, 26, 28, and 32, 3 swaps, 27, 29, and 31, and 1 protected first in 2030. That's a lot of ammo to use for moves and still have some left over. And I would not advocate to trade all of that, unless maybe it's for Giannis, obviously, or most of that. But you could trade some of that. And Kevin O'Connor also adds, he thinks the Warriors have the infrastructure to support a winner with Quentin Post, with the defense that they've been able to find. Will Richard, he mentioned, Trace Jackson Davis, Guy Santos. Like, he likes, as we often talk about on this show, the 8 to 12 guys on the Warriors roster. So you have the 1, you have the 2, you have Draymond, you don't really have the 3, and you don't have enough in that middle range of your rotation and closing players, but then you have some other guys you like. And then he went in on Kuminga, obviously, is the guy that they have to move, and he called them, quote, paralyzed by a sunk cost obsession with Jonathan Kuminga and his era, terrified of him becoming a star elsewhere, even though he clearly doesn't fit the system. And he goes on to add, of course, he's likely to be traded by the deadline. Let's give you some names here, Kyle, because there was some reporting to this as well. Some of this was a column from Kevin O'Connor, other things reporting. He says The Bulls, Kings, and Suns were the teams most often linked to him. Nothing panned out. Recently, it's been the Mavericks linked to Kuminga due to the Anthony Davis situation. But unless the Warriors are willing to part with Draymond, getting AD is impossible. So who are the teams? League sources tell him 3 other teams linked to Kuminga: the Blazers, Pelicans, and Wizards. And then Kevin O'Connor goes on to mention Portland, Jeremy Grant, Drew Holiday, New Orleans, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. And we've talked about both those guys. Maybe you can go get both of those guys. Michael Porter Jr. is another name that obviously has popped up. But it's basically, as I've said for months, look to add. Look to add. And I'm with you. I don't necessarily think it has to be Anthony Davis, but look to add, whether it's Michael Porter Jr. or whoever, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy. Like, you can give up some of that, some of those assets in the future, and not all of them, and still have some left over. And I think really help this team not only this year, but I think you could help them come up with a team that could potentially compete even next year. If if you could get a couple of guys in here between now and the trade deadline, which is a month away. We're 10 days away from Kuminga's ability to be moved on January 15th, which officially opens trade season. And Gene, I already see you there. Don't need another guard. I'd take Drew Holiday in a heartbeat on this Warriors team. And O'Connor wrote that too, like the Warriors have too many guards, blah, 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 blah. You could put Steph with Drew Holiday and DeAnthony Melton any day of the week, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, take that in a heartbeat. Take that in a heartbeat. If I'm the Warriors. All right, let's get back to the YouTube chat. Just food for thought there. Rolda Woodruff. JD, I think tonight can be the start of something good. How about if we go 8-0? I think Kerr needs a more solid lineup with Melton in there. Well, they're not starting him because they're trying to limit his minutes, and it's easier to limit his minutes as they've done with Al Horford if they don't bring him off the bench. In a perfect world, Melton would be the starting 2-guard with Steph. And I think again, this is just me. I understand why they're not doing it. But, in a perfect world, it would be Steph, Melton, Moody, Jimmy, Draymond. That would be the 5 that I would roll with. If you want to put Will Richard in there for Moody, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Again, they're trying to keep Dre off the center spot. Could tonight be the start of something good? I don't think tonight's necessarily the start of something good. I think if they go 8-0, it's going to be an extension of this stretch where they've won 6 of the last 9, minus the game that they punted on against Oklahoma City back on Friday. But I'll believe it when I see it. 8-0. I think 6-2 would be great. I think anything less than 6-2 is going to be a disappointment. Again, they're 1 game over 500. So you don't, you're 1 over and you go 5-3, then you're 3 over. Like 3 over 2.5 weeks from now isn't going to feel like much different than 1 over. Hell, you were 2 over 3 hours ago. I mean, that was before you lost this game. So you're telling me it's going to be 2 weeks and you're 3 over? I do think, though, the 8-game stretch here at home is going to define the Warrior season. And the stretch between now and the trade deadline is going to define the Warrior season. What can they look to do to add to this roster to give themselves a chance? We'll use the Steve Kerr quote, to give themselves a chance to compete and win a round or maybe win a couple of rounds and try to get to a level where maybe they can't beat OKC, which, oh, by the way, everybody's beaten OKC of late, including Charlotte, who went into OKC and won by 27 tonight. Yeah, they're not getting the record. Remember what it looked like a month ago? They could get the record. They're not getting the record. They got, 7 losses already. I get that. That's a wrap. Like, that's not happening. JD, no one mentioned Kobe Sanders shooting like Kobe Bryant or looking like Kobe Bryant. Seems like all these nobody. Oh, we mentioned We mentioned Kobe Sanders in the first segment. We talked about how if the Warriors had anybody beyond Steph and Jimmy put up a Kobe Sanders night, they probably would have won the game by 10. We talked about Kobe Sanders, and yeah, it's ugly when you look at the Kobe Sanders game log. Kobe Sanders had 0 in his most recent game against the Celtics a couple of nights ago. 0. Played 15 minutes. He scored 0 points. And yeah, the Warriors routinely have guys like Kobe Sanders turn into Kobe Bryant for a night against them. Another one of the more frustrating aspects of this Warriors team in seasons of late. Cam Johnson, call me crazy, but I think Steph and Jimmy could get each other a chip if surrounded by some better pieces. It would take a lot of the right pieces, but I'm with you. I don't think it's impossible, but I do think they're far enough away to where it's not realistic at this point. And I don't even disagree with Steve that, like, and this is where it does get tricky, because it turns into the whole, well, if you don't think they can win a title, then what's the point in doing anything? And that drives me absolutely. I mean, I almost made Kyle hit the dump button. That's how, I mean, it makes my blood boil. Like I almost slipped right there. I almost went Johnny Slipperton with a bomb. It drives me nuts. The whole, well, you can't win a title, then don't do anything. Nobody wants to watch this. Or tear it down. They're not tearing it down. Like, Steph is still too good. They're not tearing it down. They're not rebuilding. They're not trading everybody. They're trying to win this year best they can. They're going to try to win next year. And then we'll see. But it drives me nuts. The whole, well, can't compete with OKC, so just stand pat, win 43 games? No, you freaking try to win 50. You try to be the 6th seed. You try to put together a team that maybe can beat Denver or Houston in a series. You're telling me if the Warriors made a couple of moves in the next month and went 28-13, let's say, in the final 41 games of the season, you're telling me you wouldn't think that they could win a playoff series against the Lakers or Minnesota or even Denver, like compete in one of those series? San Antonio, hell, we've already seen them beat San Antonio twice. I know everybody thinks San Antonio's a juggernaut because they're the only team that has made OKC look silly with some regularity in the last 2 years. But that doesn't mean that they can't get got by somebody else as a relatively inexperienced team. And hell, I think you have a better shot at beating San Antonio this year before Wemby truly is a dude that you ain't going to beat. Because he might turn into that dude that you ain't going to beat for years at some point. And hell, it might be next year. But I think it's probably not this year. So to me, I mean, I don't know. I hate the whole, well, if you can't win the title, do nothing. No, give up a third of those picks that we just mentioned. Give up Moody. Give up Kuminga. Look to shuffle the deck. Look to try to get the best 2 or 3 players in here that you can around Steph and Jimmy and Draymond. And take a little of the pressure off some of the other guys on the roster that are probably being asked to do more than they're capable of at this particular point in their careers. All right, let's do 2 more. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get some fun with numbers. When GP2 is your 3rd highest scorer, you know you're in trouble. This team is checking out after Kerr said he does not feel they can win a championship. I disagree with the last part. I don't think they're checking out. I think they've been fighting. I think the fans are freaking out. I think that's what's happening. But no, I don't think they're checking out. I think they've been fighting hard the last 3 weeks. Problem is, it's added up to 6-4. And so you're not making a whole lot of movement. You're not getting worse, but are you really getting tangibly better? That's the question. But yeah, GP2 is your third highest score. You are in big trouble. That I would agree with Cabernet Kev. All right, JC Mack. On the other hand, Steve saying they're not good enough. Maybe him putting pressure on Mike Dunleavy and Joe Lacob. Yeah, fair. That's fair. Because I think he knows it. I think Steph knows it. I think Jimmy knows it. I think Draymond knows it. Although I do think Draymond, some of his frustrations is he doesn't want to move. So I think some of the frustration, and I've said this with Draymond, is that he doesn't want to be. He knows they don't have enough, and I think every night they get beat is a night closer to maybe him being included in some kind of deal, and he don't want to be included in a deal. And so I think that's where a lot of the frustration, that and the growing notion that Draymond is, seeing his career flash before his eyes, right? Seeing seeing the end is near with how much less effective he is, more consistently or less consistently effective compared to other times in his career. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. We will come back. We will do our Sounds of Dubs OT. We'll have our final installment of Kyle's Clicks here to round out the night and head toward Wednesday as the Warriors lose this one to the Clippers, 103-102. We're talking about it on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the Sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, back here on Dubs OT as the Warriors lose to the Clippers down in Inglewood. 103-102 is the final. As we get to the 11 o'clock hour here, and that means we need to let everybody know that you're listening to 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the Sports Leader, a Cumulus Media station. Again, final segment here on this Monday, and should let everybody know we'll be back at Harmonic and Thrive City on Wednesday. Dirty Work's going to be out there with Copes and Derek Papa from 2 to 6, and then I'll be back post Warriors and Milwaukee Bucks at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. So if you're coming out to the game, as always, stop by and say hi. We love to hear from you on Dubs OT, and we'll be out there Friday as well with the Warriors going at it against the Sacramento Kings. All right, let's get to it. Terry Stotts did the post-game podium for Steve Kerr and joked, we're not going to play this clip, but joked to open up. He's doing it to save Steve Kerr some money, given the ejection and frustration over a number of different calls for the Warriors. So let's hear Coach Stotts on the goaltending call and Kerr getting kicked out and running the club down the stretch.
I'm up here because I'm saving Steve some money. So that's the only reason I'm here. Any questions?
What particularly did you think set Steve off about that?
Particularly?
Well, that sequence.
I think it's that goaltending call that was missed.
There was also, it seemed like that.
Well, there's probably some other things, but that was the last straw, probably.
Did that seem like
I don't want to speak for Steve.
Yeah. Well, kind of are, I guess. Did it seem obvious to y'all on the bench it was a goaltender?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see a replay, but it sure seemed obvious at the time that was a goaltend.
All right, so there you go. And it was obviously a goaltend. And yeah, that's the one. And we talked about the others, the non-continuation where they called the foul. I think by the letter of the law, that one was right. But there's frustration, I think, anytime it's Steph with the late whistle and ruling that on that flip shot that Steph ended up hitting, that wild floater, and then the non-goaltend with the John Collins block, and then the foul after that, where Steve kind of lost his mind and was ultimately ejected from the game. So I think it was some frustration based on the floater that was disallowed upon the late whistle, and then the goaltend, and then the other one going the other way where Curry gets called for a foul. And it's like, all right, there's I think other instances this season where Curry kind of being at the forefront of some of these calls has been bubbling toward the surface, if not over, and it all just kind of came out in a game where the Warriors were playing a maddeningly frustrating game on the court at that particular point in time, but looked poised to be able to maybe steal the game in the early part of that fourth quarter when all that went down and Steve ultimately got tossed. All right, let's hear from Terry Stotts. One more from Terry. We'll get a little Draymond, and then one from Steph. We talked about Guy Santos getting the 12 minutes, basically. I think it was about 11:30 of the 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. He was a spark. He was a plus 13. He damn near helped the Warriors win the game in the fourth quarter. Here's Coach Stotts, though, on Santos in the fourth and not maybe getting more minutes earlier in the game.
It might be positional. He's with Dre, and we played Jimmy at 4 a lot. We got our centers, and we're already playing 11, 12 people, so it's hard to squeeze minutes in there. But the great thing about Guy is anytime you put him in the game, you know what you're going to get. He's going to play hard. He's going to get an extra possession here or there. He may or may not make a shot, but you feel his presence out there, and he always stays ready. Tonight's a great example. He doesn't play for 3 quarters, and he's ready to go in a big game. So I think he's just a guy you can count on regardless. But as far as getting him more, like I said, we're playing 12, 13 guys, so it's not easy.
It's not, but again, it's and unfortunately, Guy kind of finds his way into the more of Guy might have won you the game tonight category, and unfortunately, that winds up happening almost with every Warrior loss. There's an easy name to point to, and it's a different name every night, as we love to discuss here on Dubs OT. Why didn't that guy play more? Why didn't that guy play more? I think the frustrating thing with Guy, though, not playing more is it really is every time he gets an opportunity, he seems to make some semblance of a positive impact. Now, again, at times I think it's been a little overblown, the amount of time he's been on the floor to make that impact. How many nights have we looked up and said, damn, it feels like he played 30 minutes and he actually played 17. Well, 17 tonight might have been enough to put you over the top. And as Coach Stott said, the Warriors are already playing, 11 to 12 on a lot of nights. Tonight it was 11. And TJD only played 5 minutes, but they've really been trying to spread the minutes around of late. But I'm not sure what kept Guy Santos out of the initial rotation, because every coach has their planned rotation, and tonight Guy Santos was not in the planned rotation. And then in the fourth quarter, Steve said, "Hey, I'm going to go to him, give this team a jolt of energy." And I'm looking at who was out there at the beginning of the second quarter, because often those rotations are the same. He went to him instead of GP2 in that. Actually, no, he went to him instead of Moody at the start of the fourth quarter. So in the start of the second quarter, it was Curry, Pods, Moody, GP2, and Draymond. And in the fourth quarter, it was Curry, Pods, GP2, Gee. So he went to Gee over Moody, and then Draymond Green was out there. So basically it was, this is not a Moses Moody night. I'm going to give Guy Santos Moses Moody's minutes. And Gee wound up, being somebody that really sparked him. And again, this is a game where Will Richard only played 11. I said TJD only played 5. Peyton was relatively effective, scoring 14 points. Melton played 25 minutes. You like having him out there, even though he didn't shoot it well. Like, I'm looking at what were the obvious, where would Guy get his minutes from? And again, it's not Pods, it's not Melton, because those are guards. It's not even really Richard. It's more, do you play Horford less than the 16? Do you play TJD less than the 5? Again, you're kicking Draymond up at center. And so, maybe you take some center minutes away to get Guy some more forward minutes, but then that leaves you maybe with more minutes is having Draymond as a center, and then you don't want to have Draymond be a center for that many minutes. So it does create a little bit of a whack-a-mole kind of a problem, although it's very easy to say, hey, Guy Santos probably deserves to play before the start of the fourth quarter in a game that felt like it was going to be an uphill climb at that particular point. All right, let's hear from Draymond here. And Draymond, what did he think of Steve Kerr's reaction that got him tossed?
Yeah, when he was ready to kill me the other day in the huddle. I think it was rightfully, it's a right reaction, I think.
Shocker. Draymond's got jokes, man. I think he looked like he was about to, like he did when he was about to kill me in the huddle. Wow, man, that's a moment of brevity there from Draymond Green. But yeah, I think Steve in that moment was speaking for Steph in particular, for GP, who shot clearly again, hit the backboard before it was blocked by Collins. And I think he's speaking for Warrior fans that he thinks they've been getting jobbed too much during the course of this season, and enough is enough on a night where it probably couldn't do anything but to spark his team, who ultimately came back and darn near won the game. All right, let's hear more from Draymond. And the other key moment in this game down the stretch is when the Warriors had cut the 7-point lead down to 1, back-to-back Curry threes. Warriors forced a couple of stops when they hadn't been getting stops, but couldn't get the rebound. Steph fouls out of the game, so the Warriors have to get a couple of possessions late without Steph. Here's Draymond on being in a tough spot without number 30, right as number 30 was starting to heat up.
And then, Steph got us there, so you can't just let go of the rope. Once he goes out, he did what he had to do. It's unfortunate that he picked up his 6th, but he gave us a shot. So for us, it's important to try to finish it. Gave ourselves a chance, came down to the last shot, we missed it. That happens.
Yeah, and again, I think they got a good look. It was bad shot, obviously, an air ball from Jimmy Butler. But, two good looks. They got the layup from Draymond before that. And then, again, the inability to get a rebound. I think they even gave themselves a shot to get the rebound, which was probably part of the deal as time expired there with Jimmy taking the turnover on the baseline. All right, let's hear from Steph as he fouls out and was a big part of the action as he always is. Here's Steph on the missed goaltending and then the non-continuation call, which preceded that. And there's been a bunch of those this year where it's almost appeared as if the officials have waited for a shot to go in and then wiped it away, which has been completely and utterly frustrating, I think, to Warrior fans. Here's Steph discussing all of that post-game down at Intuit Dome.
It was both like back-to-back calls because obviously the continuation thing's been a story since Brooklyn, where I had 3 kind of either way. Kawhi won the first half. The way mine went, when it goes in, usually refs, if it's a 50-50 call either way and you let it go to where the basket goes, then you just play on and whatever. I've never seen it where it's a delayed call. Oh, there was a foul. Oh, no basket. And then literally the next possession, clear goaltend, seeing the replay. It's hard to miss both of those. And, momentum swing situation like that. Coach did the right thing. We responded the right way, gave ourselves a chance to win. But on the road, that's a tough moment.
And it was. Again, the Warriors went from down 12 to down 4 in a blink. They did give up a 3 before all that went down, but it was just in a moment where the Warriors looked like they were primed to be able to get the game tied or maybe even get ahead. They were right back down 10. Again, kept fighting. It ended up getting to 13 before the Warriors cut it all the way from 13 down to 1. But then Steph goes out, and the rest is history as the Warriors end up losing this thing 103-102. All right, so that's our Sounds of Dubs OT for tonight. Kyle, let's run through some clicks here to close up shop, including our comment of the night forthcoming here, and then we'll do some fun with numbers on this Monday. Max Lopez, Steph needs to take a fine. He's still a breadwinner for the NBA. He should point in the camera and tell Silver he's being done wrong. Wow. Yeah. Steph good. It's just not his personality. He's just such a nice guy. It's the same. It's the same. He's such a nice guy. Why I think he doesn't put pressure on the organization to make some freaking moves. Give up a 2028 for Michael Porter Jr. for crying out loud. Or give up 26 and 28 and Pods and Moody and JK for Trey Murphy. Anyway, he's nice. He's a nice guy. LM, what happens first? JK gets traded or the Niners finish their season? Oh man. I hate to say it, but I think it's looking like the Niners. And I'll say it would be the Niners even if the Niners win a playoff game. I think at this point. I don't think JK is getting traded before. I don't think the Niners are going to the Super Bowl. And I don't think JK is getting traded before the divisional round. So I think the Niners would play at least 2 playoff games before JK is getting traded. So I'm going to say the Niners, but that doesn't mean I necessarily think the Niners are going out in Philly and losing at Philly, and it's going to end next Sunday. San Jose Jazz fan 8. Don't tell Kerr that Atlanta is shopping Trae Young, or we'll be seeing 5-guard lineups. I don't think you need to worry about that one. I don't think you need to worry about that one, San Jose. I don't think they're looking at Trae Young. Bennett Roth, have the Dubs won a game in that arena since the Clippers started playing there? The answer is no. They've only played there 3 times, though. They played there in they played there in mid-November last year. In 2024, game on a Monday night, right around Thanksgiving, and they lost close there. We did Dubs OT down there on that night, and then they played there right around Christmas, between the lost week between Christmas and New Year's last year in December. And it was a game where the Warriors punted on the game. They rested everybody that night. I think JK actually had a decent scoring game in that one, if memory serves, but the Warriors got beat. And then the game tonight. So it's only the third time they've played there. But they lost, I think it goes back to 2021 at Staples or Crypto. I think it was actually Staples the last time the Warriors beat the Clippers down in Los Angeles. They hadn't even made the change to Crypto. But yeah, 2021, the last time the Warriors beat the Clippers in LA or Inglewood or anywhere. So short answer, no. They're 0-3 now. And for those scoring at home, Kyle, you know when the next meeting is between the Warriors and Clippers down at Intuit Dome? Test your schedule knowledge.
Don't tell me it's we're playing the Clippers' last game of the season to determine seeding.
It's the last game of the season, April 12th. Yeah, it's the last game of the season is at Intuit Dome, and that'll be the only other time the Warriors play there against the Clippers. So yeah, 0-3 the Warriors down at Intuit Dome in the short history, just the second season of Intuit Dome. All-Star game is going to be at Intuit Dome coming up next month on the President's Day weekend. Estimated eyes. Did anybody think we'd win when Steph fouled out? I thought they actually weirdly had a shot. It just felt. It's funny. I was texting our buddy Austin during the game, and I mentioned this at the top of the show. How it feels like the Warriors never win a game on the road anymore, where they just play poorly, but have one big quarter and kind of steal it. And they used to do that all the time in the heyday. They would do it all the time. They'd have games like tonight where they couldn't hit a shot, and then all of a sudden they'd hit everything for a quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And when they would get on that run like they did, either one of them at the beginning of the fourth quarter or down the stretch there, they would always find a way to get one more bucket and one more stop. I mean, they'd win 7, 8 out of 10, it felt like, in that situation. It feels like they're winning none out of 10 in the last 3 years in games that kind of play out tonight. But I don't know. I oddly thought that they had a shot tonight, that somebody was gonna hit a bucket to bring it home, and maybe they were gonna steal it to keep the momentum going, but didn't happen. Not meant to be for the Dubs in this one. All right, let's keep it going. How many more we got, Kyle? You let me know, brother. All right, three, 4 more. Bull Cubs. JD, I want to buy you a Philly cheesesteak sandwich in Philly. How do people meet you? You could send a DM on you could send a DM like on social media. We could figure something out. It would be a big crew in Philly. Bull Cubs. But yeah, we can figure something out. We can have Kyle do a little private chat with you, and send a message. It'll be out. There'll be some cheesesteaks consumed in Philly. There's no question about that. Probably Saturday night, honestly, is probably going to be the night for that. Sunday's kind of a long day, but always a man of the people if it works out in a lot of these random cities. So yeah, we probably work something out, Bull Cubs. We probably can. Let's see. Good Draymond. Can we even win 3 in a row? Yeah. It's been tough. No question. It has been tough. How many times have the Warriors won 3 in a row this year? I'm looking at it right now. They did it. I think they've done it twice. Yeah, twice they've won 3 in a row back in the middle of November with the Spurs games and the Pelicans game, and then they did it when they beat Phoenix, Orlando, and Dallas with the third one there at Christmas. So, yeah, I'm going back to what are they going to be on this homestand with the 8 games to go? We shall see. All right, let's do a couple more. Robert Brown, GP2 playing this many games this season is the highlight of his season. Yeah, he's been able to stay relatively healthy, knock on wood for him and for the Warriors. He in many ways, it's funny because on the nights where he doesn't play well, you're like, damn, do they have another option? But you know what? he's really helped them in a lot of games this year. Like, they would be worse off for not having GP2, as crazy as that may sound for some of the nights where he doesn't play well. But yeah, he's played a lot of games, and he's had some sneaky scoring games as well, as he often does. Robert Mason, this had nothing to do. This one had nothing to do with Kuminga. We old as dirt. Oh yeah, tonight had nothing to do with Kuminga. He didn't play. But Kuminga is the guy that's going to get you the guy. That's at the trade deadline. But yeah, Kuminga was not going to be the answer. A couple people on social media, they're playing this badly, and Kuminga can't play. Like that, Kuminga made no difference tonight. The correct answer was Guy Santos should have been out there, obviously, given the way Guy played. All right, let's get to our final comment of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
All right, Billy Joe from Alamo in the YouTube chat, not just at Harmonic. What is up, Billy Joe? Dubs should play Giants in a charity volleyball as 500 teams battling each other to go 82-81 or 43-42. It'll be 42-41. Billy Joe, we get the math right on that. But yeah, man, it does feel similar in many ways. Although the belief, if the Warriors could just get in and get one more guy because they've done it with this group, you'd feel better about what they can do. But yeah, they have been stuck in the middle for a long time. Congratulations, Billy Joe from Alamo, our Dubs OT comment of the night. All right, let's get out of here with some fun with numbers.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, let's get to it. Fun with numbers. As the Warriors lose this one 103-102. And I'm looking for my notes here where we got the fun with numbers. But yeah, here we go. 8-13 on the road for Golden State. They're now past the halfway mark in terms of road games played with their 21st road game of the year. The next 8 are home for Golden State beginning on Wednesday night with the game against the Bucks. 8th straight loss to the Clippers in Los Angeles. We dug up the official number for you. Goes all the way back to November 28th of 2021. So the championship season, right in the beginning of the season, 8 straight games the Warriors have lost to the Clippers. So that goes back to the final 5 games they played at Crypto.com Arena before the Clippers moved to Inglewood. Season series tied at a game apiece. They'll play on March 2nd at Chase. And then we talked about it April 12th, final game of the 82-game season back at Intuit Dome down in Inglewood. Warriors 1-3 in games decided by 1 point. All 4 games coming on the road. And the Warriors played their 20th clutch game. 20 clutch games out of 37 for the Warriors. 13 of those on the road. 13 of the last 18 have been clutch games. Warriors are 8-12 in clutch games. They'd won 2 straight clutch games, but they lose this one tonight. Warriors had 18 steals, which was a season high for Golden State. They hadn't had 18 steals since that game they last won down against the Clippers in LA. Same night, November 28, 2021. The last time the Warriors had 18 or more steals in a game. They had 19 on that night. Season low turnovers for the Dubs with 7. Just the 4th loss when the Warriors win the turnover battle. 14-4 in games where the Warriors have as many or fewer turnovers than their opponent. They had 7. Clippers had 20. And the Warriors can't get the win shooting below 40%. They were at 38 tonight. They're 1-4 when they shoot below 40%. Steph had 27, Jimmy 24, Draymond season high tying 12 assists, and GP2 had 14 off the bench. Second straight game in double figures, and 3 of the last 5 in double figures for Gary Payton II. All right, that's going to do it. Big thanks to our guy Kyle Haar in Daly City. Nice to get on a little bit of a mini run. We're with you tonight. We're with you on Wednesday night at Harmonic in Thrive City for the Warriors and the Bucks. We're out Wednesday night at Harmonic for the Warriors and the Kings. And then we're planning on doing a stream only on Sunday from Philly. So maybe I'll be having a cheesesteak. We'll get through the Niner game. We'll get through the Niner post game. We'll settle in for the second half of the Warriors and the Hawks. And then we're planning on going live at some point, probably right when the NFL game ends. Maybe we'll just do the Sunday night game, the game after the Niner game. Maybe I'll be having a cheesesteak, and we'll let her rip. We'll play What's in Your Cup, and we don't have to worry about losing the license because we won't be on the air that night. But we've been missing too many shows lately, so we're gonna make that one good from Philly on Sunday night, and then back at Harmonic next Tuesday and Thursday, and throughout the course of the homestand. Kyle, who else do we need to thank tonight, my man?
Yeah, we had Anthony back helping get us some cuts, getting us some funny Snoop Dogg highlights and clips. But yeah, that 11 p.m. Eastern time cheesesteak, I feel, JD, is going to hit different for you.
It is going to hit different. There's no question, and we'll see. I mean, that'll probably be because I'm definitely going to go cheesesteak Saturday night, and we're there's a big group. We're going to be watching the games on Saturday. Scheduled to land right about an hour before kickoff of the first game. So get to the hotel, find a spot. And yeah, watch the 2 Saturday games, and then get ready for the Niners and the Eagles on Sunday. And we will again have a YouTube only. That's the plan. If the game's a total dud and everybody's ticked off about the Niners, then maybe we don't. But we'll probably come on and do at least an hour for the people on Sunday night from Philadelphia. So for everybody at Daly City, for everybody in the YouTube chat, appreciate everybody who called and texted. We will talk to you Wednesday. Warriors lose 103-102, but we're all over it right here on the Sports Leader. John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I turn it over.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.
Do some closeout drills, play some one-on-one, see who got what.
I mean, if we keeping the buck right now, we ass. So
no class, no balls.
Uh-oh, Steve, don't get thrown out. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. The Arizona Wildcat